This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. What a sports weekend we had. Didn't actually get the result we were looking for on Saturday afternoon, but once again, the Banjo Bowl, an amazing event. Not a great game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but the result of the game almost secondary compared to the concern amongst Bomber Nation for the health of quarterback Zach Collaros, who was knocked out of the game and did not return. And that was a big reason why the Bombers were able to put up a grand total of 0 points in the second half in a loss to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Lots to pick apart from the game. We will hear from Coach O'Shea, Brady Oliveira, and we'll look to find out where the team goes from here with Ed Tait, who will join us coming up a little bit later on in the program. Of course, it was also the first weekend of the National Football League. And, all week long, I was talking about the great schedule of the games and how we were getting Bills-Ravens on Sunday night. If there's one thing that delivered this weekend, it was the Bills and Ravens with an absolute thriller. Ridiculous comeback by the Bills on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens, despite looking like at times they're playing a different sport and in a different league than everybody else, still find ways to let teams back in and still find ways to lose, despite having at one point a 99% win probability in the game. Zig Fracassi is going to join us later on. Connor and Remo will join me for a little bit of a roundtable later on about everything we got both in the CFL and the NFL this weekend. For those of you that are just counting down the days to Winnipeg Jet training camp, we can tell you that a large number of players are now together skating at the Iceplex. Shout out to Illegal Curves Dave Manouk, who was down there today. And I can tell you from what Dave has been reporting that many more familiar faces joining the players on the ice today. Mark Scheifele was working on 2-on-1s with Jonathan Taves today, and also you had Colin Miller, Ville Heinola, Neil Pionk, Cale Clegg, David Gustafson, Gabe Velarde, Vlad Nemetsnikov, Dylan Sandberg, Cole Perfetti, and Eric Comrie, amongst others. Some of the young players as well, Fabian Wagner, Jacob Julian, Elias Salmon, and Braden Yeager, all taking part in the team skates. And on the other ice sheet, the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, Adam Lowry, continuing to rehab and work on his skating after off-season surgery, working with our pal, JP Vigier. So anyways, we're getting closer to training camp. That will officially begin next week, but the Winnipeg Jets are going through the captain's skates right now as more and more players get back to Winnipeg. And we will hear from Jonathan Taves later on this week, as well as I would imagine a number of Winnipeg Jets after they're finished up some pre-training camp skates out at the Iceplex. But we're going to focus in on the aftermath of the Banjo Bowl, NFL Week 1, and much more. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, welcome to everybody in chat. Hope you had a great weekend. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. And, of course, a big thanks to our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, our partners at Coolbet Canada. New episode of CFL 110 brought to you by Coolbet tomorrow, right after WST. Also want to thank Princess Auto, man with Princess Auto Stadium rocking on the weekend. Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. Of course, we'll get to a why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray. And do some fan feedback for fansfirst.ca on the Bombers moving forward at 6-6 out of the sweep at the hands of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Michael Remis, what's going on?
Yeah, good weekend. We're into the swing of things now. Hockey just around the corner. School's underway. The Banjo Bowl's wrapped up. It was a big weekend on our household. Moved my daughter from a crib to a bed, so milestones are being hit, but overshadowed. We are both wearing black. Hustler, I just noticed that. Bombers losing back-to-back in the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl. I'm not ready to close. I know some people might be wanting to close the book on the season. I think it's a bit of an uphill climb for the Bombers, but hey, they're 6-6. They're still in a playoff spot. All you got to do is get in. However, a lot of concern about the health of quarterback Zach Collaros. Will he be able to continue playing? Will he be, quality of, Milt Stegall going on the broadcast as well, suggesting that he should never play again. So we don't know anything about that yet. We'll wait and see. But the Bombers certainly, they're not out of it yet, 6-6, but definitely in a tough spot here. And look, Huss, I thought both those games certainly winnable, but the mistakes, the turnovers, really hurting them.
Yeah, listen, -3 turnover differential against a great team like Saskatchewan, you're toast. If that is the final ledger, in a game. I feel, and we'll get into this with Ed when he joins us, but Remo, I feel for the defense. The game in Regina, listen, in both games, there were a couple of big plays. Certainly the play from the 1 yard line was a killer, in a defensive battle, a field position game. And yeah, they had a couple bigger plays against Winnipeg in Regina, but also, scored points on a couple really short fields. They were able to once again hold Trevor Harris to a very reasonable passing output. Under 250 yards for the second straight game. You give up 21 points in a game. Listen, you in the Canadian Football League, that should be enough to win, especially on home. But listen, the Bomber offense is really challenged right now. You take out Dalton Schoen. But I thought Pokey Wilson had a great debut. He scored a beautiful touchdown, was impactful after just basically showing up, so that was a positive. But listen, this entire conversation we're going to be having today around the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is done with a massive question mark about Zach Collaros and him moving forward. Now, we'll ask Ed Tait about, what he can tell us about where Zach was after the game and, was he in the quiet room or whatnot. Tomorrow we should find out, a more concrete update from the football team as the team gets back to practice. But I did find, Remis, that, on the bus ride home, the bar afterwards, just talking to people about the game, obviously there was disappointment that the team wasn't able to beat Saskatchewan, the big rivalry game. But let's face it, everyone was just talking about, legitimate personal concern for Zach Collaros. This is a guy that, came in and did things that we hadn't seen in 3 decades, lead a team to a championship. They've been to 5 straight Grey Cups, and we can talk about some underwhelming performances in the big game in the last couple, sure. But, that is an incredibly high standard. And, in some ways, we've been a little spoiled. You realize that when Zach Collaros is out in the game, what this Bomber offense is working with. And it is sort of crazy after what we saw. This Strevler is 2-0 as a starter this year. But it just seems like when Zach Collaros is the guy and Chris Strevler comes in, there is such a big drop-off on the, the potency of this offense that against a team like Saskatchewan, it just wasn't enough. And to get shut out in the second half was, I think, really demoralizing for the team. And, you do wonder. First and foremost, I want Zach Collaros to be healthy. And if he deems that, this game has put him through so much that for his future and his family, that it makes sense to not play anymore, I'll support that decision 100%. From a football perspective moving forward, if Zach Collaros isn't available to go, we got big-time problems this year. I don't think there's any saint or savior coming in 12 games into an 18-game season that's going to change it. Maybe at some point they gave Terry Wilson a chance to go. I don't think really plays very much in practice, as most depth quarterbacks do. Maybe he could be a great story. Maybe with a week of working with the ones, if Zach is out, Chris Streveler can go and get to be 3-0 as a starter for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But just real big questions. First and foremost, personal concern I think most fans have for Zach moving forward. And then the question of where this leaves the Bombers. Right now, with Edmonton and BC right behind them, Toronto and Ottawa getting wins and getting a little bit closer. I mean, it feels like it's going to be a real white-knuckle ride every week for Winnipeg right down to the finish line of this regular season.
Yeah, quarterback concern, for the Bombers, had the play, but also Zach, the person, you hope that he is okay. And I do remember, when they acquired him in 2019, there were questions then about concussions, and they've had a great O-line, and he's been upright. But this year, he's left. He's left from hits from 2 games. The other game, the Toronto game that he left, but he came back a bit too early, and concerned about his ability to stay on the field, and we'll see. And for the backup, I was convinced Streveler was going to come in there in that fourth quarter, and they were just going to go run, and run the ball all the way down to the 1 with like 1 second left and punch it in. But I had flashbacks of him driving the ball in that Calgary game and trying to throw it, to the pylon and getting intercepted. It wasn't quite that play, but, maybe tried to do a bit too much. And when your backup comes in and goes 5 of 9 with 2 interceptions, that's tough. I'm not sure if Streveler is the answer throwing the ball, but there were a couple plays where, they have Dembski running or Streveler's running a bootleg. Brady Oliveira, we talked so much coming into this game, wanting to see him get the ball. We had 20 carries and another 2 catches on 4 targets. So I liked how they got him involved. And if you have Streveler in there, you'll have to come up with a different game plan. We don't know what the status is right now on Zach Collaros. We'll have to wait till tomorrow. But you have to come up with some kind of a game plan to allow Streveler to succeed, or do you go with Terry Wilson? I was sitting on the couch saying, sign Taylor Elgersma right now. Give him whatever he wants. Give him the Nathan Rourke contract. We just saw him in NFL preseason making highlights. Look, it didn't work out for Rourke. They got to go to him and say, hey, Taylor, it didn't work out for Nathan Rourke. Come here. We'll give you a shot. I don't think they're going to do that, but hey, they did.
He's not getting the Nathan Rourke deal.
They did. Hey, they need the Grey Cup's here. Desperate times call for desperate measures. You got to convince him to not sit there and hold out for an NFL job. Just spitballing here. However, the Bombers did trade for Zach Collaros in 2019, and so it's been done before. You can bring a guy in halfway through the year to take over at quarterback.
That's a good point.
They did.
That is a good point.
So you can't say, oh, you couldn't learn the playbook. I mean, you're a quarterback. It's football. Isn't that what Mike O'Shea says? Football's football. How hard could it be, Huss? Come on.
Well, this will be something I'm sure we'll touch on tomorrow on CFO 110 with myself and Jeff Hamilton. Because, you do bring up a good point. I mean, when the Bombers had injury issues at the quarterback position, like an hour after the deadline, we learned about it.
Yeah.
And listen, just tying this back into Zach, I remember at the time going, wow, Zach Collaros is on his way to Winnipeg, and it was for a conditional pick, first rounder if they won the Grey Cup. And I'd be like, oh, well, they'll certainly be more than willing on giving that pick if they have to, not thinking it was remotely possible. And then it was. And then they won the whole thing. But as I said, especially with what's happened behind the Bombers, like with Ottawa, they're not even playing with their top quarterback. They get a big win against BC. Nick Arbuckle has absolutely been crushing for the Toronto Argonauts. Chad Kelly's coming back, but I don't think they're moving off either of their quarterbacks. It's not like there's any team right now that's out that you would say, okay, do us a favor here. We'll make it worth your while and move forward, because everyone is sort of in it. So it could be moving forward with the guys that they have right now. Clarity first is needed on Zach Collaros. Everyone concerned about his well-being and his future. If it wasn't a concussion, was that neck thing as well? That would be great. I'm not holding my breath for it. And as I said, man, this is going to be a lot on the plate of Jason Hogan, who's taken his fair share of criticism recently, to try to cook up a winning formula for a Chris Strebler-led offense to Hamilton next week. But again, he is 2-0 as a starter this year, so maybe they can make that happen. We are going to hear from Ed Tait coming up in a few minutes, but let's hear from Coach O'Shea after the game. Needless to say, not pleased at the results of the previous 2 weeks, losing back-to-back in the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl. Here's what Mike had to say after the game on another loss.
Yeah, it's not hard to lose back-to-back. It's hard to lose.
Period.
It's like you can end the sentence there.
Where'd you guys lose it?
Oh, they're a good football team. We didn't play our best. We make a couple mistakes and take some penalties and don't score enough points. I mean, it all adds up, right? But once again, I think a pretty hard-fought battle, just not good enough at the end to have the score in our favor, right?
How hard to see Zach go down and stay down as long as how concerned.
Yeah, he doesn't stay down usually, Yeah, it's not comforting by any means. I hate to see that.
Can you give us any sense of whether he'll be okay?
Well, I'm sure he'll be okay. When, I don't know. There's no update.
Was it encouraging? Should it be encouraging to see that he jogged off? Is that encouraging for you?
Yeah, he's a tough cat now,
All right, so there's Mike O'Shea in conversation with HOFer Paul Friesen. Where do the Bombers go from here was the next question for Mike O'Shea. Maybe a tough time to kind of deliver that one right after such a tough loss, but here's what he had to say on that.
We're either going to improve and get to where we want to get to, or we're not. But I just bet on our guys that we're going to improve. I mean, will we lose by 8?
8?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're 0-5 against the teams ahead of you in the West.
That's true.
That must suck.
Once again, I got a lot of faith in our guys that they're going to come back to work tomorrow, and then they're going to have a day off, and then they're going to come back to work the day after that, and they're going to be excited to be on the field and looking forward to getting better and looking forward to get to Hamilton and find a way to win, right?
Reem, I'll be honest, I haven't heard many questions tossed in a post-game presser like that. Just an open-ended, that must suck.
That must suck, yeah. The Bombers' record against the teams ahead of him in the West Division, haven't won against Calgary, haven't won against Saskatchewan. I do feel like the games against Saskatchewan, they were right there. They gifted them the game with the turnovers. Saskatchewan scoring a lot of points off there. And the Bombers, seeing in the chat the missed field goals, maybe you have a different game there if Sergio makes those. They could have helped him out a bit more. I know I don't want to criticize Sergio. He's been money all year. The Bombers had trouble moving it in a bit deeper for him to get a better shot at it. And they're only down, they only lost by 8, as O'Shea said. The turnovers have just been so killer. You look at the league standings, and they showed this during the broadcast, the turnover differential. The Bombers are minus 11. That's 8th in the league in the 9 teams. BC is minus 12. And you look at interceptions made, the Bombers far and away lead the league with 20 interceptions. The next closest is BC with 15. And there's been some costly ones here. And Saskatchewan, as you said, the Bombers' defense has played pretty well, holding Trevor Harris to his lowest yardage of the season in the Labor Day Classic, holding them to 21 points in the Banjo Bowl. But the offense not able to score points, and tough to win. You don't score in the second half, real tough. I thought they looked good at times. Ontario Wilson was a nice boost for sure, but some miscommunication there on a couple of the interceptions. And then you're trying to come back, and Strebler throws 2 from the backup. Not ideal, but hey, he said, 2-0 as a starter for Strevler.
Yeah, 2-0. And to be fair, the final pick was just a Hail Mary at the end, which, could go either way. But again, the turnovers have been killing them, especially in these big high leverage games in the division. Here's what O'Shea had to just say about the costly turnovers and, in the last 2 games against Sask.
I think that's one of those metrics that's well known across football, from minor football all the way through to the pro level, is if you lose the turnover margin, you have a chance of losing the game. There are some games where you end up winning, even though you're behind in the giveaway takeaway category, but we're not there yet. We're not there where we're taking the ball away enough or surviving giveaways. But once again, it's football, right? They get paid. They're a good football team. We just got to figure out a way to take care of the ball better and limit the damage when it happens, and then take the ball away a little more.
All right, so there's Coach O'Shea. Now, the conversation did return to the concern for for Zach Collaros. These two were very close. They've done a lot of winning together. They've been together for years. There's a special relationship between the starting quarterback and the head coach. And, O'Shea was just pressed on, his current concern for Zach coming out of the Banjo Bowl, but with the fact that he's left games early on in this season as well.
Well, it's not the games that are concerning. It's Zach I'm concerned about. So, yeah, I care about the guy and his, these guys aren't football players, just football players in here, right? So, yeah, you don't like to see that.
So you're worried about him, like, personally, or are you worried about his ability to consistently be on the field as well?
I'm not worried about his ability to be consistently on the field. I'm worried about Zach.
Zach the person?
Yes.
All right, so there's Mike O'Shea. T. Conapoli popping into the super chat. Maybe this is exactly what the people need today. No worries. I can see the Blue crossing over and winning east to beat Saskatchewan and Grey Cup in Winnipeg as the visitor in the visitor's room. T. Conapoli. That's the sort of rainbow that everyone needs blown at them this year, or today, after that tough loss. Appreciate the super chat as always. Was nice to see Pokey Wilson back in the Bomber lineup, and he did make an impact. Also got in to the end zone. Here's what O'Shea had to say about the season debut of the returning Pokey Wilson.
Good yak, nice block by Wheat. I think it was Wheat on the side to spring him. Good reach for the pylon. Like I said, catches the ball in traffic, has good burst, good athlete. Very good football player, going to be good for us.
Reddick Cramdy, his first career pick, probably long overdue.
Was that his first?
Yeah. So kind of nice to see him get rewarded.
Yeah, he's one of those linchpin guys, right? He helps everybody around him. I said it before. So him and Dietrich and Homie, on the back end, they sort of, everything runs through those 3 guys, and Reda's a major part of that. So nice to see him get a pick.
All right, one more from the coach, and this goes without saying. You're not winning many CFL games if you get shut out in a half of football, especially in a game like the Banjo Bowl against a good team like Saskatchewan. Here's O'Shea on getting nothing from the offense in the third or fourth quarters.
Yeah, I guess without looking at it, it's probably not fair to comment on it. We didn't score any points. You said it right there.
The play where the Riders have the ball back down on their 1-yard line, Trevor Harris throws a deep pass for 40 whatever yards it was. Just what did you see on that play, and just how kind of backbreaking of a play was that, I guess?
Well, you can still stop them. They're still on their side of the field, right? It's one play. It's a matter of picking yourself up again. Did we hold them to a field goal there?
Yes.
Yeah. So rally and try and stop them from getting to field goal range, right? They managed to get in the field goal range. I think they got a PI a couple plays later. They ran the ball, then they got a PI, so they get into field goal range. But we managed to hold and limit the damage to 3, so that's pretty good. Do you like them see them come off the 1? No, but it's a young guy trying to make a play, and it's, he'll learn.
All right, there is Coach O'Shea. Now, Brady Oliveira, as Remo mentioned, has had a there have been some games where you just wonder where the touches were. The Labor Day Classic was one of those games. Not so. There was a definite commitment to continue to run Brady, and certainly once Zach Collaros went out, Saskatchewan may have known it was coming, but even kind of doubled down on getting Brady Oliveira the football and running the ball. Brady spoke afterwards and talked about another tough loss to the Riders.
Yeah, it's tough. You just want to get a win. You know, we see how much of the work the guys put in. You know, like preparation. Like everyone truly puts a lot into this, and that's one thing. And then just seeing our fans come out, like consecutive sellout games. Just wanted to get a win for them as well, right? So yeah, no, it's tough.
You get the lead again, 13-3. It's still 13-6 at that. Is there a moment that stands out for you that on offense that you guys would like back?
I think one of the last couple of drives. I think in the fourth quarter, we got to stay on the field. We got to stay on the field and try and put ourselves in a better position. Again, executing the plays that are called. And again, there's gonna be different times, and I'm sure they want plays back too. But I think maybe if we stay on the field, maybe it's a different game. Take some clock off. Maybe we finish with 3. Maybe we score 6. I don't know. That's past my though.
All right, a disappointed Brady Oliveira afterwards. And, of course, there's the personal side to the game. We heard it from Mike O'Shea. Here's what Brady had to say about watching his quarterback leave the game in the fashion that he did on Saturday.
It's brutal again. A guy that does everything right. Puts in preparation to the max. The guy's here super early, here super late. Him and Strev both just... all our quarterbacks, but Zach, just the leader of that group, the leader of this team, the leader of this locker room. To see him go down just sucks. You hate for when it's guys like that do the right thing all the time.
He's down a long time too. What's going through your mind in that? It looks like guys were really concerned.
Yeah, I was right there next to him, and
first guy down on your knee there.
Yeah, just concerning. I think if anyone goes down, you see them down there in some pain or whatever they're dealing with. You just hope that they get up. Like, hope that they give you any sign that, hey, they're okay, they can get up and they can move on to the next play. And it's a game of football. It's physical. It's a physical sport. You understand injuries are going to happen. You just wish that you can get up, and unfortunately, you're not always going to be able to get up, right?
All right, so there's Brady Oliveira. There was some talk about that hit after, during the game. Obviously, I'm sure they were speaking about it on the broadcast. We were in the building, so I didn't catch it. But I understand why they threw the flag upon looking at it, and I do think it's important for the defenders to just, habitually hit quarterbacks lower. I don't know about you, Remis. I did not think that this was, as much as it seems like Saskatchewan knocks out a Bomber quarterback in one of these games every year. Looking at it back, I didn't think it was a malicious hit. And I know that the player in question defended themselves on social media afterwards saying, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, you look at that hit and it's not a player, launching himself like a missile at another player's head. He didn't lower his head into the head of another player. It's a guy unblocked, running full speed. You see him try to reach out and grab Zach, and his head contacts Zach's head. And, that is, according to the rule, you're not allowed to have that, which is why the fumble was overturned, and they called it a roughing the passer. I didn't think it was... I didn't think it was anything dirty, or I didn't think there was intent, and I agree, it does seem like the Roughriders knock out the Bombers quarterback, but this wasn't like a headbutt or anything like we've seen in the past. Football's a fast game. I think, you try to lower the hitbox. You try to go for maybe the shoulders there. I think he tried to wrap him up on the shoulders, but his head comes through too, so I think it's a tough play. It's gonna happen. But I don't think there was. Like malicious intent there, as we've seen on some other hits.
Yeah, that is football, unfortunately. And listen, the Bombers got the first down and they got the 15 yards, but they lost their quarterback. And I think we all saw what happened and how the tide just turned all in one direction after Zach was lost for the game. Let's get to some fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. Blue Bomber games, they're all sold out. You want to find a ticket, go to fansfirst.ca. And, of course, Jets season coming up as well. Lots of comments in on the chat right from the start of the show. Spency having a little fun. Bombers are cooked. Let's go Jets. Oh, wait, Jets are cooked. Well, we haven't even started the season yet, Spency. I know he's having a joke. Kevin Soldier, Bombers in trouble. Georgie Porgy responds, yes. Spency says, so Bombers make the playoffs easy, just won't go anywhere. Dan Jets fan, what a disappointing fourth quarter. Running Man, who is a Rider fan, Running Man happy, at least I won my WST game. A rough sports weekend for results, indeed. And some other ones, Kevin K. Yeah, Kevin Cade's a Rider guy, too. First Banjo will win in 5 years. Nice to have a win for a change. So there's, yes, and Kevin Soldier, Remo in Sirius mode today. No hat. Boring Sean Monahan says, let's channel the 1988 Blue Bombers who went 9-9 and won the Grey Cup. And Waiters mentioning the Bombers secondary is the best in the league in QB completion percentage. And yeah, listen, I think if you're looking for one kind of bright side of all of this, the Bomber defense is really coming around. And that's going to be mandatory if they're playing any period of time without Zach Collaros. I would suggest even with Zach Collaros for this team to compete and, potentially win on the road in the playoffs. It's going to take everyone to be better, but the defense definitely has turned around. Great stuff in fan feedback. Keep it coming in the chat. By fans, for fans, no fees. Check out Fans First at fansfirst.ca. All right, we're going to talk to Ed Tait coming up in just a moment. I'll thank Rolly's Transfer for the great support of WST. And as we're moving on into fall, folks, if you and your family are on the move, lean on Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Family owned and operated right here in the Peg. Check out their website at rollys.com. with all their information about their services and their history. And on the right side, you can click on Request an Estimate, put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know where you are planning on moving, when the move is happening, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that Rollies has been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, use our friends at Rollies Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate over at Rollies.com. Not as many smiles today in the chat, I'm sure, for WSTers after the Banjo Bowl loss. But there were smiles for sports fans all around with such an incredible weekend with so much happening. Of course, if you need to work on your smile, head on over to Dr. Terry and his great team at St. Vital Dental Center, serving generations of Winnipeggers. And now with a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment, smiling faces on all the staff, and of course, convenient free parking right behind the building. St. Vital Dental Center handles customers from 6 months to 99 plus with everything under the sun, from cleanings and checkups to more bigger operations, things like dental implants. You can find out all on what St. Vital Dental Center can do for you online at stvitaldental.ca, and lean on them there. Make an appointment, pop in, and tell them that the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And while we were hoping we'd be toasting a Banjo Bowl win with a little CC in victory, I have a feeling some of those Blue Bomber label bottles drowned a few sorrows on Saturday night. Of course, Bomber fans, when you're in your local Manitoba liquor marts, you can grab the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the iconic Canadian Whiskey Canadian Club, in a special limited edition Blue Bomber label bottle. It is phenomenal, as is the product since 1858, the original. And while you're at it, check out the ready-to-drink cocktails Canadian Club has put together. The club pack features the CC and ginger, the citrus smash, and half. Got some nice weather coming for the next couple of weeks. Great time to get on that before it starts to get chilly into fall. Canadian Club, check out the display at your local Manitoba liquor marts. All right, Connor Hrabchak and I will dive into some NFL action. Last night's insane Ravens Bills game. And we'll also zig Fracassi on a little bit later on. But let's sort of wrap the series against the Riders, find out a little bit more what we can about Zach Collaros, and look ahead to a busy week as the team gets ready to take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats, looking to stay above 500. Let's welcome in our pal Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com. Eddie, great to have you as always. That was a tough one. I mean, you look great, by the way, in your WST hoodie. Appreciate that. Man, an incredible atmosphere, sold-out game. I mean, it had it all with the exception of the home team coming out on the winning side of things. But listen, I mean, the game almost seems secondary to the status of Zach Collaros. I mean, what can you tell us? You're around the team. I mean, do we know how Zach's doing right now? And when will clarity be about Bomber quarterback moving forward?
Well, okay, so I'll address the second part, first Huss. Zach, I don't know his status. We'll find out tomorrow at practice, I'm assuming, if he practices. And this is where you start to speculate and read into all kinds of things, but he ran off the field on his own steam. He waved to the crowd. He got into the locker room, saw him in the locker room a couple of times after the game. So, the people that are worrying about whether it's a concussion, I'm just speculating here. I think those are signs that it's not, because I don't think he'd be in the room and in that space after a loss if he had suffered a concussion. That said, I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means he's going to play on Friday or not. It could very well be that he doesn't practice but still suits up. So there's all kinds of balls in the air, all kinds of scenarios that could still be played out here. Clearly, they need him, and that's what everybody's got their fingers crossed he can still go.
At this point, though, with Zach, and listen, hand up right here, I remember being on the air when the Bombers acquired Zach Collaros in 2019, and it seemed like an afterthought at the end. And I think I probably said something along the lines of, I'm not sure whether Zach, with everything that he's been through, should continue playing. Well, we know what the chapter he's written in Winnipeg is. Hall of Fame, Grey Cups. I mean, he's done everything. But I certainly wasn't the only one thinking about just concern for Zach, the person, when that went down. We heard Milt Stiegel be very clear as a former player about where he's at. How difficult is it for the team and probably for Zach himself moving forward about what's best for him as a person long-term, as opposed to the desperate need for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to have him guiding their offense with their season on the line moving forward?
Yeah, so that's a deep question, right? And until we have all the facts, it's difficult to start, speculating again on whether he should step aside. I'm with you. When they traded for him in 2019, Hess, there was a guy that hadn't played much that year, had been hurt, coming off a concussion. And so I really, at the time, thought it was an insurance policy. And here we are talking now about one of the greatest quarterbacks in Blue Bomber history. The club has said it's a neck injury all along. So it's not like he's piling up more concussions or anything like that. And I know Zach talks about this. Let's not kid ourselves. Zach talks about this with his family all the time. He's got 3 kids. He's 37 years old now. So I'm sure this is a topic of conversation. And the medical staff, there's some tweets afterwards and stuff on social media about how can the medical staff put him out there and all that stuff. Come on, this is a professional bunch here. They know what they're doing. It's ultimately Zach's choice, but if it got really bad, it would be the doctor's choices too. They would tell him, the therapist, the athletic therapist would tell him, and maybe it's time. But until we get to that point, let's just pump the brakes on all this and see what happens in the next couple of days. Like you're right, this could be the sign that it's time to fade into the sunset, or maybe he thinks I'm still good to go, and he's still got. We've seen it this year. We saw it in the Labor Day Classic. When he's on, he still can be dominant in this league. So it's his choice to make, as long as his health is good.
I mean, listen, it's one of those unique jobs and industries where you're putting yourself on the line every time you go out there. And I will say this from a fan's perspective, and talking to a bunch of Bomber fans after the game and throughout the weekend, there's not a soul, I think, in this city that would begrudge Zach for not coming back if it was a situation that, his future life with that family and children could be impacted by it. And that's going to be a decision for him and the team moving forward. But I think it was very clear coming out of the game that almost the result of the game, as disappointing as it was secondary. And Blue Bomber fans were feeling for a guy that's given so much to this team and this community since he came here in 2019.
Yeah, agreed. And, on the sidelines that day, too, was Dalton Schoen, who Friday just had his season shut down. And again, I'm seeing a lot of people saying that the Bombers should cut ties or he should retire. Look, what are you going to say if a guy like Dalton Schoen spends this all off season again, rehabbing, and says, I want another crack? If you're the Bombers, you can say, no, we've been down this road. We don't want to take the risk again. But if you could get him on a decent deal again, and he got it back, and he wasn't, the knee was good. Boy, I would hate to say no, thank you, and then see him in another uniform go off. So that's what made Saturday tough. You're right, Huss. The result matters, of course, and there's a packed house, and it's such a rivalry. But when Zach's running into the locker room and doesn't return, and Dalton Schoen standing on the sidelines, you remember that these guys they're real people in those jerseys too, right? And lives and careers and things to think about like that too.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Schoen, because, and this is taking away less the personal health and just thinking the football side of thing moving forward. I'm with you. If Dalton Schoen's going to, work his butt off to come back and be able to play, I think the Bombers would be crazy not to have a spot for him. It's obviously got to work within the cap, because I think you do have to realize that, having him be your highest paid receiver, there are questions as to his durability. That's just what happens when you go out in the last couple of seasons.
100%.
So whether it'll be getting a deal that works, whether it's incentive laden, whatever, if he's able to play, the Bombers want him on the field. The quarterback position to me is different. We had some conversations in the offseason about, okay, what's next? At the time, Zach had 1 year left on his contract. Now, he did re-up for an additional season going forward into next year. But I think we saw, unfortunately, in front of our eyes that secession plan might be incomplete right now for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And
yeah,
you're spot on the quarterback. And obviously the pressure on Strevler and Terry Wilson right now, if Zach Collaros isn't around, to get more of the offense than they have been able to do at times when Zach has left games earlier this year.
That's a bit of the concerning thing, right? There's been 2 starts that Strevler has made this year. He's won them both. He had to come off the bench in 3 other games. His numbers are pretty pedestrian. We all know what he is as a quarterback and the kind of the emotional leader, how hard he works at this. But in terms of succession plan, I'm not sure what the latest is on Taylor Elgersma. The last I heard, he was getting a look from the New York Giants. Maybe that's part of the succession plan. I know they've got some interesting names on their neg list, including Ian Book, who played at the University of Notre Dame. He's on the street right now. There's a few quarterbacks like that on the Bombers' neg list that might be for down the road. I'm not sure what they think of Terry Wilson. The interesting thing about that, we hear from people saying they should give Terry Wilson a try, or Chase Artopius, the other quarterback that's around, and it's a fair comment. But I'll tell you, the weird thing about CFL teams and how they practice is that the 3rd and 4th guys barely get to throw in practice in game-like situations. It's often just thrown to receivers at the end of practice or in individual sessions where it's just quarterbacks thrown to the receivers. But I can't tell you whether Terry Wilson can play. I'm just being honest, because we don't get to see it very much in practice. Same thing with Chase Artopius. So maybe he is the succession plan, but I don't know if he's got it or not. So that's down the road, right? So, maybe we have to start thinking about this sooner rather than later. But if Zach comes back, that can get this team to the end of the season here. But you do have to start thinking about this, right? It's not just because of his injuries; it's because of his birth certificate, and he's 37 years old, and they signed him to that extension. But boy, wouldn't you love to have the next guy, your young next quarterback, in-house to learn from a Zach Collaros? And that's something that I'm sure the organization has to be thinking about for 2026.
Well, for sure. And I think that's what everyone was hoping would be the case when Elgersma was selected in the draft. I mean, I love the pick. I thought the value was great where they got him. Part of the reason why he went where he went is that they knew there was going to be a potential tryout and some time in the National Football League, and that's taken place, which means he hasn't even signed with Winnipeg yet. But, you know, as we move through this season into the offseason, regardless of what happens the rest of the year, to me, that position and what happens going forward, whether Zach's playing and with the club next year or whether he's not playing next year, it all starts at the QB1. And, you know, since 2019, when Zach Collaros took over that position, we really haven't had to think or worry about it much, Ed. And now we're sort of in this situation. As far as the game goes, I mean, listen, the focus, of course, is on Zach and his health. But I will say this. For a defensive group that was pretty maligned earlier this year, I felt sorry for those guys. You want to talk about a group that played their asses off for a full 60 minutes. And I would argue that the game in Regina and in Winnipeg, the two best performances of the season. You know, if you can hold the Saskatchewan Roughriders to 21 points, you feel like you should win that game. Now, this isn't to pile on the offense, but just to highlight the fact that this Bomber defense is coming around and really left it all out on the field on the weekend.
You're right. It's unfortunate that, you know, you come away from that game feeling like you wasted a performance from the defense. In the last couple of games, Trevor Harris, who's a most outstanding player in Canada, has thrown for combined 458 yards. Now, he's been lighting up teams all around the league. So to hold him to under 250 for each game, I mean, that's pretty amazing. You know, and in the game in Regina, you were there, Huss. A couple short fields after a fumble by Zach in the score zone, and then a fumble by Brady Oliveira, too. They had short fields to defend there. So I thought the defense was really good in the Labor Day Classic, too. Now, look, when they had them late in the game, backed up to the 1, Saskatchewan at the 1, and Trey Vavel got caught on that double move by Robustelli. Sure, you'd like to have that back, but they held the team to a field goal. You're not going to win hardly any games in this league by not scoring a point in the second half and only having 13 points. So the defense did the job. I thought the offense sputtered in the second half. You had 2 missed field goals from Sergio from distance. You can't be counting on those all the time. But, you know, so that's basically one phase that can raise their hand up and say, we did our job on Saturday. And the other 2 are probably going to be watching the game film like this, right? It's going to be tough in the last couple of days to go over all the mistakes we saw on those sides of the team.
You know, I mean, when we're talking about Strevler, it's sometimes difficult to get into, because you mentioned he's started a couple games and won them.
Right.
I mean, I will say the first game of the year, the way they came out with Strevler starting, knew that Zach was just suspended for a game. I don't know whether, I mean, he passed for 300 yards. I mean, it was an air game. I think he only rushed for 1 or 2 games. And we all sat back going, well, wait a second. Strevler can throw for 300 yards, beat a good team like BC. All right, things are good. And then, you know, in the relief appearances, it just hasn't been. Now, I'm not sure whether that is related to not getting the reps with the ones all week and, you know, having to come in a game plan for Zach, but it's been very different, I guess, to be charitable from what we saw in week 1 than what we've seen, for instance. Now, the BC defense, I will say, based on their body of work, also maybe that shows us a little bit what they were dealing with in week 1. But listen, the Saskatchewan group is elite, and they weren't able to do anything. And I do wonder if they can move forward with this same sort of a plan if Zach's not in the mix, because, man, they're playing some good teams moving forward. They've got to get the wins. And they just had nothing going on offensively in that second half.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? In the first game of the year, Strev threw for the 3 touchdowns, and like you said, it was like, well, okay, there's the guy that could be the succession plan, even, right? And then it hasn't been the same since. It's like he's running It's like he's running Zach's offense, though, and so I think some people would like to see more of an offense that suits his skill set. And, you know, that's maybe getting him outside the pocket more, maybe threatening the edge more. That one interception he threw, look, in the fourth quarter, this team still had a chance to win the game, right till the end. The one interception he threw where he was rolling to his left, which no quarterback is going to really say that they love rolling to their weak side. He got blown up as he threw that pass, and it got picked. I think there was a missed block on the edge. It just looked uncomfortable, but that's the concern now. If he's the starter on Friday in Hamilton, you're going to be playing Bo Levi Mitchell and company. You have to expect it's going to be a track meet, right? It's going to be a high-scoring game where you're going to have to put up 25 or 30 points. So where does that come from? Based on what we saw in the second half against Saskatchewan, again, an elite defense. Hamilton's defense isn't that good, but they're still decent. So, how do you find some traction on offense? It's been so weird in the last couple of weeks that the ground game was non-existent in the Labor Day Classic, but they threw for over 300. And now you get Brady going in the Banjo Bowl, but there's no points to show for it in the second half, and the passing game dries up after Zach leaves. So, man, you'd love to find the magic pill for both of those formulas to get everybody rolling. Saskatchewan, I'm looking at the stats here, only had 337 yards net offense against Winnipeg in the Banjo Bowl. Winnipeg had 310. Winnipeg had more time of possession, but there's all kinds of little things. Some penalties cost them, and you just can't have all those things add up. And as Michael Shea said after the game, they're not good enough to overcome all these turnovers too. That's the other ugly stat out of all this, is that this team is the worst in the league in the turnover differential, and that's why this team is 500. That's why this team is 6-6. There's too many areas where they're just not quite good enough.
It's so un-Bomber-like, to be honest with you. I mean, the one thing that you could count on with this football team for the last 5 years plus has been ball control and security and discipline. Yep. And there's been some ugly penalties, I would say, particularly in the game in Regina as well, Ed. But, you put it all together, and this team is all of a sudden in a dogfight. Now, I was going to say, it hasn't been like this for a while, except it was last year when they were 2-6 and ended up getting to this point. But the West is really different this year. And when you look at the standings right now, maybe a thank you card to Dustin Crum and the Ottawa Red Blacks for what happened on Friday night and that insane comeback that dealt BC another loss. But it does seem like it's a critical time in the season right now, Ed, to get this right. And listen, going up against the Ticats, who are no joke themselves, they snapped their losing streak. To beat Hamilton, you're going to need to put up points because you can have another great defensive performance. Bo Levi Mitchell is going to get his, especially at Tim Hortons Field. So I think there'll be a real sense of urgency to figure something out. I mean, if Zach Collaros can play, that's great. I don't think there's many people that are counting on that for coming up next week. But again, hopefully we'll hear differently tomorrow. But not only will the defense need to stay at that level and get better, but I mean, this is going to be a ton of pressure on this offense, potentially without Zach, to figure it out, or else we'll be in a white knuckle ride right down to game 18.
Yeah, you're right. If you pull back and look at the big picture, and this team never does that. We hear that all the time. But if you look at the standings and what's ahead, there's still a third of the season. You've got BC and Edmonton surging right behind them right now. You've got Edmonton coming up later in the schedule. You've already beat BC. So remember, if they ended up tied in record, Winnipeg has the season series on that. But there's all kinds of things. People are talking about the crossover and maybe going through the East Division. Whatever. Just get your ticket punched. And what this team needs to figure out in the final third is how to be playing way better ball than they are right now. And that's in all kinds of aspects. You touched on the offense just there, Huss. I like what we've seen from the defense. Maybe you'd like to get it settled in the defensive tackle position. They had to start Colin Cornelison after bringing him back last week. Do you go with an import there? It's got some options. Demario Houston still hasn't played yet. He's an option, give you more depth in the secondary. But I like the defense, but you've got to get this offense figured out in the final third of the season. And again, we've seen some signs here and there of how good that could be. But you want to be playing better ball in October and into November, especially with the Grey Cup here. And whatever route that ends up being, whether you go into the East as a crossover, whether you have to go into Calgary or Saskatchewan for a West semifinal, just, cross your fingers and get your nose to the grindstone that you're playing better ball by then. And that's the thing that this team's got to figure out. They are a 500 football team, and 500 isn't going to cut it when the playoffs start.
Well, and it's not going to cut it in the next few weeks because the teams behind them, well, with the exception of BC, that have found a couple ways to lose. I mean, they could easily be like 8-4 with Calgary right now, and a couple of these games that they've found ways to lose. But man, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I mean, you're 6-6, which is great. You got 2 games against Hamilton. You've got Edmonton coming up. I mean, these are going to be, and another game against Saskatchewan, of course, who's battling for first place. So to me, I mean, these next couple of weeks really important because, Ed, if the offense, and listen, I don't want to speak as if we won't see Zach Collaros, but everyone has to acknowledge that that is a possibility.
Yep.
I don't know if the Bombers can go and grind out a bunch of 12-11 wins the rest of the way, but something is going to need to change because the quality of the teams chasing them, like Edmonton's quality, huge increase and a big win for them against Calgary yesterday. And we know that BC with Nathan Rourke, anytime Nathan Rourke is playing, they can go win a football game. And you mentioned, I mean, Toronto and Ottawa now seem to be coming around a little bit. So the one thing we can guarantee, it's going to be a wild race to the finish. And I would imagine these playoff spots are probably determined in week 21. Hey, speaking of the offense, though, for a minute, it was great to see Pokey Wilson back. And listen, it came in sort of a one step forward, one step back with losing Dalton Schoen. But for a guy that had only come in for a day or two of practice, he didn't miss a beat at all. And he's going to be incredibly important moving forward, considering the amount of guys on the IR.
Yeah, he looked really good. Good numbers, had that touchdown, an amazing touchdown, good block from Carrick Wheatfall on that. It looked like on Zach's first interception, I think the one at the end of the first half, that there might have been some miscommunication there. I probably wouldn't have been throwing that ball anyway. I would have run it a couple times and punted it, but that's what we all do. We're armchair quarterbacks. But he fit right into the offense. And for a guy that had, maybe a couple of practices with this new offense, with the new terminology, I thought he looked really good. And I've used this term before, but it's kind of the silver lining to losing Dalton Schoen is that you slide in a guy who was your rookie of the year last year and a 1,000-yard receiver. That's a pretty good trade-off. So the weird thing is, and we're talking about this offense, and you have to, the pieces look like they're there, don't they? This offensive line has, it's got a lot of veteran guys on it, but it's proven in the past. Zach threw for 300 yards in a Labor Day game. The game before that against Montreal, Brady Oliveira had over 200 yards from scrimmage, so they can get it done. The receiving core is not bad with Wheatfall and Dembski and now Pokey Wilson, Kevin Sklarcius. Like, there's a lot to like there. Dylan Mitchell has come on in the last couple of weeks. Brady Oliveira is the best running back in the league still. So something's got to go here, right? And to your point, Huss, you need number 8 back there to feel really good about things. But can this team find a way, if he's not back there, to grind out a win and reward the defense for another solid performance like they could have done in the Banjo Bowl? It's a real mystery right now. And again, we've talked about this throughout this little segment here, Huss. We haven't been talking about the Bombers in this way for a while. Yes, we were at some points last year, but they also finished on a 9-1 run. I don't know if I'm looking at this team right now. I don't see them going on a 6-0 run to finish the regular season. It's possible, but they've got a lot of things they got to figure out, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, we are way past the style points part of the
Big
game.
Time.
We're about results. And listen, if they can find a way to go into Hamilton and win in a place that has not been very hospitable to them over the years, with the exception of a certain Grey Cup game against the Tiger Cats, would be a heck of a start. And it's going to be really interesting practice-wise this week. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, the Collaros question is pretty much everything to this team. But for Jason Hogan, who took his fair share of heat coming out of last week, for a rookie OC to lose your starting quarterback and then having to go into the lab and cook up something that is a winning formula with Chris Streveler as the starting quarterback, if that is the case, well, maybe we need a little bit of innovation, a few different looks. And the bottom line, Ed, to your point, everybody on this football team stepping up with an A performance, because that really is what it's going to take right now with the amount of important impact players that they don't have at their disposal.
Yeah, it looks like right now, regardless of whether if Zach's in on Friday, you feel better about things. But if he's not in, it's going to be one of those games where you're going to have to shut down Bo Levi Mitchell the way they did with Trevor Harris. You're probably going to need like some kind of magic on special teams, whether it's a kick return score or like a punt block that sets you up in good field position. You need to be damn perfect to get it done. And we'll see. I mean, again, the next couple of days are so important to get some answers. And to your point about whether you can switch things around on offense, they don't have a lot of practice time now. If you want to put some wrinkles in, you better be working on those wrinkles. So the next couple of days are fascinating. I always say the Blue Bombers are Winnipeg's best soap opera, and we're watching it on a couple of good chapters unfold here right now.
Yeah, well, these last two chapters have not been fan favorites, Ed, for obvious reasons.
No.
But, hey, listen, never a dull moment. In closing, just hope that Zach is going to be able to. Listen, would love to see him be able to play, and would love to hear that wasn't a concussion. But I think everyone understands that there's some bigger decisions for him coming forward than just about a football game, and a group that he so loves being a part of and leading. But as I said, that's one of the scary and unfortunate things about professional football is that very few get the opportunity to make that choice for themselves. And the feeling coming out of the stadium was not about the game as much as it was about concern for a guy that has meant so much to this team and this city and this franchise in bringing the Grey Cups and all the success that's come along with it. Ed, you mentioned, so tomorrow we'll get injury report, a couple days of practice. I guess there'll be a closed practice in there. So this is going to be a pretty quick turnaround week, and we probably won't get a ton of what the Bombers are cooking up, but we will get a little bit more clarity about who will hopefully be able to go in the next 24-48.
Yep, absolutely. Should be, it's always interesting around Bomberland, and we'll see in the next couple of days, to your point, Huss. But fingers crossed for Zach. Let's hope that this ultimately is his choice and he can play as long as he wants, and it's his decision. Like you said, not many get to make that. He's 37 years old. I'm hoping that he can, ride off into the sunset with a glorious finish, and it's still there for the taking for him if his health is good. So fingers crossed to what you said, and next couple of days should be interesting.
Big one on Friday night. Bombers and Ticats will be all over it throughout the week before the team goes wheels up to the hammer right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Ed, really appreciate you jumping on. Enjoy the rest of the day, and good luck to the squad on Friday.
Thanks, fellas. See you later.
All right, appreciate Ed jumping on. Make sure to tune in tomorrow to Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll have the latest from Bomber practice on this status of Zach Collaros and everything else as the Bombers get ready for the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Friday night. Going to bring in Connor and Reem and talk a little Banjo Bowl and NFL Sunday before we welcome in Zig Fracassi at the bottom of the hour. Do want to thank Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Man, Princess Auto Stadium was rocking on Saturday. Unfortunate that the Bombers weren't able to send everybody home happy, but we'll get another chance to do that in a couple of weeks. And guess what? That game is already sold out as well. And it's funny with the Bombers finishing with these last two games at home. They may very well need these games. I don't think we'll be just focusing on the playoffs at that point, considering where things are. But listen, Princess Auto, proud sponsor of the Bombers and WST, headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg and with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. 12 months a year, Manitoba Battery consistently is delivering Winnipeggers and Manitobans the best prices on batteries. That you can take to the bank. Save your time, save your money from the big box stores and go to Manitoba Battery. But right now, they're rocking the big harvest sale. And of course, not only are they having even better deals right now on batteries as we get into the turn of the season, but Manitoba Battery also has the best customer service, which means we know you're busy. Get your batteries delivered to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It is just that easy. Go to manitobabattery.com to check out all the great deals for the harvest sale that's going on right now. And as I said, 12 months a year, save your money and time. Manitoba Battery is your local option for the best prices in town, period. as we get ready for that Manitoba winter. Logan Avenue and Dovercourt Drive, if you want to pop by and see him in store, give him a call or order online today for free delivery with any purchase over $60 at manitobabattery.com. And hey, as we're changing seasons right now, many of you might be changing wardrobes. And hey, guys, if you do need a little bit of an upgrade to your menswear department, get on down to F Apparel, the leading spot for custom men's clothing in Winnipeg for 15 years and running now. Custom suits starting at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, the best selection of menswear accessories. And, of course, if you are getting married, make sure to talk to the guys about a special discount for the wedding party when you get your suits for the big day at F Apparel. It's all waiting for you at 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online at that's EPHapparel.com. You can also make an appointment to come in for a fitting online at FApparel.com. All right, let's get the boys in here. We'll have Zig join us with his thoughts on week one of the first week of the National Football League. And, it was a doozy. But before we get to that, welcome in Connor Hrabchak along with Michael Remis. And Connor, before we dive into the NFL, how was your Saturday? Disappointing walk out of the stadium. We haven't had too many of those over the last few years, but it always stings a little more against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And obviously, in addition to the loss, the concern about Zach Collaros' future moving forward after being knocked out of another game in a pretty scary incident.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to echo what you guys said off the top, where the concern is with Zach Collaros and his health, and a guy who's had multiple concussions over the stage of his career and is in the later parts of his career now. Definitely thinking about him and hoping for good news, not even in relation to football, just hoping that he's okay after a hit like that. That looked very scary. As for the Banjo Bowl itself, and I'll really loop in the Labor Day Classic as well, throughout this whole season, Huss, early on in the season, it was Jeff Hamilton, either on this show or on CFL 110, who was saying that, Bomber fans have become kind of fat and happy with the success of the team over the last number of years. I think losing back-to-back to the Riders is the first step to, getting away from that. Like, leaving that stadium, I was like, wow, the Bombers really, you could always count on them to win the Banjo Bowl, at least in my lifetime. Like, the Princess Auto Stadium going for the Banjo Bowl. They lost that one year when Willie Jefferson was terrorizing them on the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But other than that, they've been absolutely money in that game. You could always count on them to bring it in that game. And I'm not saying they didn't bring it effort-wise, but them losing and them having lost now the Labor Day Classic and Banjo Bowl back-to-back for the first time since 2018, I think is the first step away from us, being super comfortable and happy all the time with the Bombers being this dominant regular season team over the last 5 years.
Yeah, listen, Bomber fans are no longer the maybe cocky bunch that they've been the last few years that comes along with being as good as they've been for this long. And Remo, Ticona Pauly is a great bit in the chat here. Zach saved us in 2019 and brought us 5 solid years and trips to the Grey Cup. It's unfortunate to be possibly ending this way. The problem is in professional football, especially at that position, it often is not the choice of the player as to how they end it all. But, I think we all have to realize that is a possibility, especially, and I'm sure you heard what Milt Stiegel had to say on the broadcast. I mean, there is legitimate concern for Zach, and he's had some hellacious hits over his career, not as many in Winnipeg as he had beforehand, but that's why many people, myself included, were kind of skeptical when he was first acquired by the Bombers, wondering how much he had left, and we couldn't have been more wrong. He put together, a Hall of Fame run here in Winnipeg, and will certainly be celebrated as a Bomber legend forever. But it kind of felt like a bit of a crossroads, if you will, after the game. And you could tell by how heavy the responses were from Mike O'Shea and Brady Oliveira to the legitimate concern for their friend and brother before a player on a depth chart.
Yeah, you saw all the players kneeling in prayer when he was down, and it's just a sight that you've seen too many times lately. And for a guy who we had those concerns in 2019 coming back from concussions, to leave a couple games this season, now 3 total. I think it's too many. You don't want to have a guy getting, so many head injuries, especially in close proximity to each other. So you do care about, his health. as a person, and you want him to be able to live a long and healthy life. And we know that when you've taken too many hits to the head, it can certainly affect you in the future. So we're wishing Zach Collaros all the best, and we'll have to wait. We haven't heard an official diagnosis. Milt Stegall was on after the game before the Calgary-Edmonton game, saying if it was a concussion, and he has had concussions, the team called it a neck injury earlier this year, then he wouldn't, if it was his son, he wouldn't let them play again. So let's wait and hear what Coach O'Shea and the team has to say tomorrow. We'll see if he's on the field, but again, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I know everyone here does care about his long-term health, and I'm sure he'll do what's in the best interest of Zach Collaros going forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Zach does not owe anybody in this city, anybody in that locker room, anyone in that organization, anything other than doing the right thing for he and his family. And we'll find out what is up tomorrow. It was, Connor, just before we move over to NFL, it was, I guess, nice to hear from Ed that Zach was around the team afterwards and was up, and obviously he did jog off, but it was still, when you see a guy with that history kind of lifeless for a period of time on the ground, you knew that it was somewhat serious. And as I say, everyone just hoping that we'll get some good news, not necessarily good news about him starting again for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but good news that hopefully it wasn't the head injury that everyone feared. Anything else you want to hit on the Banjo Bowl before we turn over to the National Football League?
Yeah, absolutely. And for extensive coverage on the Banjo Bowl, I'd suggest people go check out WST Bombers Report, which Schnitzy and I came out this morning on the WST channel, and we broke down the game at length, Milt Stegall's comments, the hit on Zach Collaros, all of these things coming out of the game. But I want to look at the defense for a second, because I do see some people, and I have heard some blame being put on the defense, but I thought they had a stellar performance in this game. And the Trey Vavel double move from the 1 yard line that he got beat on for a 48-yard completion, that absolutely swung the game, swung field position. And that's something that you can't give up in such a big moment in the game when the Riders are pinned on their own 1 or 2 yard line. But other than that, the defense was doing a fantastic job shutting down Trevor Harris. He had 7.7 yards per attempt. So every time he was driving back to pass, he was getting roughly 7 yards, which is a very good mark, especially with how the Bombers have been playing throughout this season in the secondary. You've got Cam Allen making plays. You've got Bavel and Lawson at corner. And I thought Dietrich Nichols had maybe his best game of the season. He had a few knockdowns in coverage as well. And the D-line, I mean, they weren't necessarily sacking Trevor Harris, but they were getting pressure on him, making sure he was getting the ball out quick. And I thought the Bombers defense had a really strong performance. And going forward, with Zach Collaros or not, they're going to need to be a defensive juggernaut, because many times we've seen this season, the offense can't really be counted on to put up 30, 40 points, but we've become accustomed to with this Bombers offense in years past. And that's especially heightened if Chris Streveler or Terry Wilson is the starter at the end of the year. They're going to have to win every game 17-13, it feels like. So this defense turning a corner is a very good sign. It's away from the offense where I think the bulk of the question marks come from, and it's going to need to continue if the Bombers want a chance at winning a Grey Cup or even playing in it at home.
Yeah, I mean, listen, history has told you we have seen some teams that have actually been quite successful in the playoffs, really leaning on defense and field position and all that. It's getting there that is the issue. It's not normally the recipe for regular season CFL football, but we'll have much more on this tomorrow on CFL 110. As Connor mentioned, when you're finished with WSD today, if you want more on the game, Connor and Zach with an extensive breakdown in the WST Bomber Report, which is up on Winnipeg Sports Talk right now. And all week long, we'll be focusing on the Bombers as they get ready to head to the Hammer for a Friday night game at Tim Hortons Field. All right, guys, let's get to the weekend in the National Football League. And, I had a couple good picks. I had a couple bad picks. I did have the Bills last night. And I was talking to Pat and Jake in our group chat. And I said, winning the final bet of the weekend after the Chiefs lost and the Bombers lost and an up and down Sunday, it felt to me like, this is the analogy. It's like holing out for birdie on the 18th hole and carding a 106. Like, there were a lot of triples and doubles before getting to the end. but you get one and it wants to keep you coming back tomorrow. I mean, let's just start with the late game, because all week long we were saying this is the best matchup we could possibly have for week one. Connor, I'm not sure that we might have already seen the game of the year in the National Football League last night.
Yeah, I got to give you credit, Huss. You were glazing the schedule maker all week long for the Sunday slate as well as the Sunday Night Football game. And man, did that live up to the hype. That was incredible. Two MVPs going at it in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And the Bills' run defense is in playoff form, letting Derrick Henry run for 150-plus yards and multiple touchdowns. And then you have the drama at the end where Derrick Henry, where, you know, he's climbing up the all-time rushing leaders list. He's having an incredible game. If you have him in fantasy, you almost certainly won your week. He fumbles to give the Bills life, and then the Bills go all the way down, but miss the 2-point convert. And then the Ravens, 4th and 3, they decide to pull their MVP quarterback off the field and punt and put their exhausted defense back on the field. And Josh Allen goes all the way down the field with really no issue whatsoever and ends that game. So we might have seen the game of the year, Huss. I will say that I know we'll get into the full slate. Maybe even Steelers Jets was the game of the day going into Sunday Night Football, which was shocking. But what a week one it was, and awesome way to cap it off with Bills and Ravens on Sunday night. That was a classic.
It really was. And this is the stat, Remis, that just stands out about the Baltimore Ravens. They have lost 8 games since 2021 where they had a greater than 90% win percentage. The next team in the NFL has done that 5 times. I got a text from disgruntled Ravens fan and fantasy expert for WST, Thomas Tipple, who is a Ravens fan. And he sent me this. He's like, John Harbaugh, 17 blown double-digit leads, most by any coach since 1991. And I think he did place a rather large wager on the Bills with about 5 minutes left.
Oh.
Which paid off big because he said he knew this was going to happen. He's seen this before. Remo, how in the world can the Ravens look like a team that is literally playing on another level than everybody else for 50 minutes, then find themselves on the losing end of a 41-40 decision? The game was crazy in so many ways, but if you watch the first 3 quarters, it would seem impossible that the Buffalo Bills won that football game.
I think how could the Ravens lose that? I think part of the reason is Josh Allen. He found another gear, and when he made that flip pass, went on 2nd and 18 from near his own end zone, I placed a small live wager on the Bills down, 29-17. I forget what the score was. They were down 2 scores at the time, and you just felt it. The throws he was making, his running, Cook doing some nice running as well, finding the rookie making his first catch on the one near the end. The momentum was building towards Buffalo. I thought for Baltimore, they made so many great plays. I really didn't like the play selection there on that final drive. Derrick Henry goes 1 yard to the left end, and then they hand off to Zay Flowers for a 0-yard run. What are they doing? Keep the ball in Lamar Jackson's hand, give it to Derrick Henry again, and then they went for the pass to Hopkins, who had a nice grab earlier for his first touchdown as a Raven. But the Baltimore, they shot themselves in the foot. The Derrick Henry fumble, all the great plays he made in the game, that really opened the door for Buffalo, and I didn't like their play selection. I did enjoy the debate if they should have gone for it at 4th and 2 on their own 38, 4th and 3 on their own 38, or punt. They opted to punt and give the ball back to Josh Allen. At the time, I thought, maybe go for it. But if you don't I think the risk is that you don't get it, you basically lose, and you have to think you'd be able to stop them. You can pin them deep. Ultimately, no one was stopping Josh Allen in that fourth quarter. I just saw a stat of most fourth quarter passing yards all time. It was like the one of the top 10 most we've ever seen. So,
just on that,
yeah,
two coaches had that basic decision to go for it on fourth down in a spot where it is somewhat dangerous if you don't make it. But if you get the fourth down, you win the football game.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them punted. Both of them lost. Well, one in Seattle, they decided to go for the field goal as opposed to get it. And Connor, your Niners were the beneficiaries of that. I honestly think that more and more we're going to see coaches. Everyone was watching that game last night. This is a time where, even the analytics said go for it. And I realize that it's kind of contrarian to traditional. A lot of these guys have been coaching for a long time and people didn't really think this before. I guarantee, though, if John Harbaugh had a chance to do it again, based on what happened, he would have thought, maybe I can get 2 or 3 yards with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
That's the thing. What you mentioned those two scenarios. One team has Sam Darnold as their quarterback. The other one is Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield. Like, come on. That's like, you can put trust in your MVP quarterback in that scenario more so than your exhausted defense that had been on the field the entire fourth quarter. Remis just brought up the passing yards for Josh Allen. How about this stat? Teams with 40 plus points and 235 or more rushing yards in a game were 277-0 heading into that game. They're now 277-1 because the Baltimore Ravens blew it. What a performance for Josh Allen too, and for him after the game on the sidelines there to say, I saw some people leaving early. Don't count us out. I can't imagine leaving that game early. That would haunt me forever. But what a classic, and good on the Bills for coming back there.
My riding partner at the Labor Day Classic, Carter Chen, was at the game yesterday, and I was texting.
Did he stay?
And he said, he stayed.
Okay.
Oh, listen, what you're going to miss those sort of content opportunities? As if.
No way.
He was there, but he did say a lot of fans left early.
That's ridiculous.
And I saw Bills fans doing videos midway through the fourth quarter about how much they sucked and how much they just got ran over by the Bills. It's a great way to make yourself look like a complete idiot by saying game over before it's game over. And that was a perfect example of what not.
I do want to give a shout out to Matt Prater, the guy who made the game-winning field goal, who had just signed with the Bills a few days before, didn't know any of his teammates' names, or he was just learning them. 41-year-old kicker. I swear, they're showing the sideline. They go over to Matt Prater. I'm like, oh, that's nice. They got some alumni on the field there, in a jersey and no equipment. Like, this guy's going.
It looked like
great.
a guy that won a fan contest.
It honestly did. And I was like, oh wait, that's Matt Prater, who's was on Denver early in his career, has been a great kicker, 41 years old, and I was they had to rush it a little at the end, with the way that they took the kneel downs, and it was interesting the way it ended because Baltimore probably wished that Buffalo would have scored, but instead it was a Coleman got tackled, very close to the end zone. They were able to take the kneel downs and run down the clock, and you are seeing that more where teams are opting to not score and to, pissing off every fantasy manager out there, not taking the touchdown. I'm sure there's some guy out there, I need Keon Coleman to score, and, credit to them, taking the kneel downs, setting up for a last-second field goal, and Matt Prater drilling it, although there was a Baltimore player who almost got his hand
very close
right in
very
there. So
close.
What a sequence that was.
Hey, we've got Zig coming up in just a couple minutes. So just quickly, let's run through this, and we'll hold off on talking Vikings-Bears until afterwards. So Connor, stick around, and we'll kind of dive into that after we talk to Zig.
Sure.
But a big winner and a big loser from the weekend for each of us. I'm going to start off on the winning side with Danny Dimes. The Colts offense took advantage of just how weak Miami is and did something no team has ever done before. Had 7 possessions in the game and scored on all 7 of them. They won the time of possession 39 minutes to 21. This was a no-show. And if you're a Dolphins fan that was somewhat concerned about how this team would look over the course of the season, but thought, well, we're healthy, we're in a dome, we're going up against the Colts, that could not have been a more disappointing. So Daniel Jones and the Colts, the big winners. And listen, while they won, I'm putting out the fraud alert right now on the Cincinnati Bengals. This is not a serious football team. They were so fortunate to win, and if the Browns didn't Browns themselves into a missed convert and a missed field goal, they don't even win that game. The offense didn't look very good. Now, they always often struggle against Cleveland, but I just don't understand how the Bengals, fully healthy, looked as mid as they did against the Cleveland Browns yesterday. Connor, a quick winner and a loser for you from week one.
I'm going to start with loser because this was the biggest standout of the weekend for me. It's the Detroit Lions. I mean, a lot of people think that, or coming into the offseason, thought that Jared Goff and that offense was a Ben Johnson merchant, who was their offensive coordinator for the last number of years and is an incredible play caller. Made Jared Goff, a guy who could throw 30 plus touchdowns, 35 plus touchdowns in a season and have that offense as one of the best in the league. And the Packers just smothered them completely. And that was only with Micah Parsons really playing third downs or obvious passing situations. He played a little bit more as the game went on. But first snap of the game, Micah Parsons wasn't out there. And that trend kind of continued throughout the game. And even then, the Lions, were just checking down the ball and ineffective in the run game. It was just a very ugly game from their offense. It's supposed to be high octane. So the Lions are my biggest loser of the weekend. And Huss, I hate to do it to you, but I was so impressed with the Los Angeles Chargers on Friday night in Brazil. So they're going to be my biggest winner of the weekend. I would take the Niners because of the way they were able to overcome, the Seahawks on the road with all the injuries, but that would be a little biased. So I'm going to go with the LA Chargers, who you can tell that Harbaugh is changing the culture there. Justin Herbert played one of his best games against the Chiefs in his career. Going into that game, the records for Mahomes against the Chargers and Herbert against the Chiefs were very lopsided. So for them to win a neutral site game and for Herbert to look incredible doing it, I think the Chargers are my biggest winner of the weekend, with the Lions being my biggest loser. Remo, what do you got?
Yeah, I was going to pick the Chargers too. Just sorry, Huss. Coming into that game, the Chargers...
Herbert was amazing. Herbert was amazing. I'll give him credit. He's come up sort of so-so in some of these big games before. He was phenomenal. And Patrick Mahomes in that game was simply amazing. Listen, the Chargers probably deserve to win that game by a lot more. He somehow, without Rice, without Xavier Worthy, held them in. And he did some superhuman stuff. But you're right, Remis. Herbert was an absolute stud, and not enough people talking about it just because it was Friday night.
Yeah, it was Friday. We should say the Chargers coming in on a 7-game losing streak to KC, 3-19 in their past 22 games against the Chiefs. So big win for the Chargers. They have the coach. They've got the rookie running back now. So, maybe this is a year where Herbert puts it all together. I've liked his game for a while. So I was going to say them. Also say Aaron Rodgers taking it to the Jets. What a good matchup. He can still play. Told them off after. If you wanted a loser, I'll go with Drake May and the Patriots losing at home to Vegas. You thought you're going to have a big year. Big year. They're rebuilding. I mean, maybe you guys picked. I like the ones you guys picked. Miami was pretty embarrassing for them. Yeah. But I'll go with the Patriots. Maybe expected a little more from them here.
Yeah, and let's include Jamar Chase fantasy owners and big losers as well. Whoa, no show on that one. Listen, we're going to bring in Zig and get to some NFL right now. Hey, hockey season is back. Before you get on the ice, you need to trip down to Royal Sports, the #1 hockey superstore in Winnipeg for over 50 years. Everything you need to drop the puck on another season, waiting for you at Royal with the experts in the hockey department to help you get the best fit and the perfect equipment for the player in your family. While you're there, get ready for Jets season, Bomber Run, NFL with the best in licensed merchandise in the city. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram as well for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We got a big Monday nighter tonight. Vikings and Bears, best place to be to watch the game with your crew is your local Boston Pizza, ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, great prizes at all local BPs. So saddle up tonight for Monday Night Football at Boston Pizza. And if you are staying at home, you can get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, Zig Fracassi coming in right now. First off, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, what a first Sunday in the National Football League. And after the Bills and Ravens put on that show for football fans, our next guest was burning the midnight oil with the aftermath on Sirius XM NFL radio. Zig Fracassi joins us now. Zig, how about that to start off the season? You guys have anything to talk about last night on the show?
Oh, gosh. Hustler Ram, always good to be with you. Yeah. Maybe it was fate that it happened on September 7th because Kevin Gallagher is a big NFL historian, and he posts on X. It was 45 years ago that the Bills had ended the 20-game losing streak against the Miami Dolphins. Just so happened I was at that game. So what happened was my buddy's dragging me. He's like, Dave, you got to go to this game. Got to go to I go, Dave, they're going to lose again to Miami. So anyway, he drags me in. And as it turned out, I'm glad he did because we saw some history. So I don't know, 45 years later, the final season opener at Highmark Stadium before they go into the stadium next year. I mean, Baltimore just absolutely had their way. Derrick Henry was grazing cattle out there the way he was running the ball. And then when that stopped, Lamar was hitting Zay Flowers with deep middles and all that. So there was no reason for the Bills to be optimistic, but that's why you play 60 minutes. Of course, they get the touchdown. Then they force Oliver forces the fumble on Derrick Henry. They score again. The Ravens didn't go for it on that key 4th and 3 because Lamar cramped up. It seemed like all fate and everything like that was going for the Bills. And Josh Allen, my gosh, 250 yards in the 4th quarter alone. Even Joey Bosa said after the game, I'm speechless. I guess, though, when you've got Josh Allen, anything's possible. But that was a hell of a game, Andrew, to open up the 2025 season.
Bigger rally for the Bills or bigger choke job for the Ravens?
That's a very good question. I guess it's your view on it.
I will say the latter on this one. Like, I don't know how anyone, particularly on that coaching staff, got any sleep last night, that they lost a game or they looked like they were playing a different game than the other 31 teams.
Exactly. And you know what? There's a stat that popped up too. John Harbaugh passes the guy he coached under at one time, Andy Reid, now for most blown leads, double-digit leads in the 4th quarter, at least since 1991 with 9. And this has been a problem for an otherwise very, very good Baltimore team. I don't know if it's a case where they simply lose focus. They just simply think, they've got the game in the bag. The other team's not going to come back. But, gosh, even saw that, I think it was last year, when they played Dallas. I mean, Dallas stunk. And here they are. The Cowboys almost snuck back to beat them. So this has been a problem. And if you truly want to be a contender and oust your Chiefs in the AFC, you play 60 minutes. You got to stay focused. Now, again, the fumble and Lamar cramping up didn't help, but still, if you have aspirations to be the best, you've got to play a complete game.
Zig, we talked about this game all last week, just that it was such an amazing finish to the first NFL Sunday, but also just how important this game could be at the end of the season. I mean, a head-to-head matchup between two of the AFC favorites could absolutely determine whether a game is at home or on the road. And I mean, that's a real tough way for Baltimore to start the season. But they've done this before. I mean, I think back to, remember their loss to the Raiders in week 2 last year?
Yeah.
was the
Bad
same
loss.
sort of thing. Up 14-0, and it just sort of stopped there.
Raiders
and the
weren't
next
that
thing you know,
good. Yeah.
well, that's the thing. It's worse to do against the Raiders because Buffalo is a team that is a big time powerhouse of their own. What were your takeaways from that crazy Pittsburgh Jets game yesterday with the two quarterbacks going up against their former teams?
Yeah, and how about that for history? The first time ever that the starting quarterbacks for this opener were the starting quarterbacks in reverse last year. Aaron, of course, with the Jets, and Justin Fields with the Pittsburgh Steelers. For all the touchdowns Aaron threw, and he was fabulous with 4 touchdowns, he could have easily had 3 or 4 interceptions too, but the Jets dropped a couple. Nice combination, though. I like what he did with Calvin Austin. I think there's a possibility there. Obviously, Metcalf's going to be an addition worth noting, too. But I was pretty impressed with Justin Fields. Guy was getting rid of the ball quick. He asserted himself there. It's good to have Breece Hall back with the Jets. So it's just one of those things. You wonder if the receiver hangs on to the ball before Jalen Ramsey made that big hit. Who knows? Maybe the Jets keep the drive alive and go on to the game-winning field goal. But in the end, wild game, 2 quarterbacks with something to prove, and I think they proved at least for 1 week that they belong with their new teams.
Zig, as much as we saw Matt Prater kick a game winner to walk it off last night, and Chris Boswell with a 60-yarder earning every single cent of his check and more, the kicking, I thought, in week 1 was an absolute disaster. Oof. Like the show that McLaughlin and Koo put on in a very high leverage game in the NFC South between the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Falcons was a disaster. And I got to tell you, of any team that won that probably didn't deserve it, it's the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh.
I mean, the Browns to miss a field goal and an extra point and to lose by 1 in the fashion that they did with the Bengal offense doing absolutely nothing has to be concerned of. I mean, I know Joe Burrow's great. I know they've got that great offense. I don't really consider them a serious team in the AFC based on what we've seen last year and their week 1 performance.
Well, it was amazing. The Browns kicker was a guy who didn't have a vowel in his name. So it's like, we're going to play Wheel of Fortune. And they better spin that damn wheel to find themselves a kicker because that was absolutely disgraceful. I mean, the kid, Smith, I think his last name is, he beat out Dustin Hopkins. But again, some of these teams, they go a little bit cheap. They think they got the next great kicker, the next great Brandon Aubrey or Bates from Detroit who came out of the UFL, but it doesn't work that way. An amazing thing, Andrew, 141 total yards by the Bengals, yet they still pulled it off. I had Noah Fant on after the game, and, it was just one of those games. He got indoctrinated right away into the Battle of Ohio. It turned out to be a fierce struggle, and I will say this, I give Cincinnati some marks. They actually made some big plays under new defensive coordinator Al Golden, including that game clincher late with the interception. So I still think Cincinnati's going to be a player in this. I do. If that defense plays reasonably well, I think the offense will show much better. And if you're a Cincinnati fan, the fact that you actually won an opening game because they were 1-11 under Zach Taylor in the first couple weeks of each season since he's been the head coach. Hell, I'm dancing around Fountain Square with Skyline Chili today, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, one of those games where you'll take the win, but
no matter how ugly it is, right?
But a lot of work left in it. Zig, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about this game early on, but I did mention, if you're talking about winners and losers, they might both come in the same game. I couldn't be more impressed with what the Colts did to the Miami Dolphins. Now, was this just a no-show from a bad Dolphins team? There was a lot of people on Miami thinking that, okay, well, listen, it's in a dome, they're healthy, they might not have a good outlook for the season, but they'll get this one done against the Colts. I mean, dude, they got stuffed into a locker. The time of possession was 39-21.
Yep.
And Miami was never even in that game. What were your takeaways from both sides of the football in that blowout in Indy?
Well, first of all, it was an emotional game because obviously they had the ceremony to honor the late Jim Irsay, who brought his dad, Robert, brought the franchise to Indianapolis over 40 years ago. So Jim was a beloved owner, had his issues. Let's not sugarcoat that, but his players absolutely loved him. And in fact, I talked to Latu after the game, and he said, that's our motto for 2025 is win it for Jim. And then, let's face it, they weren't facing the no-name defense of Super Bowl vintage of Miami, but give, Shane Steichen a lot of credit. He utilized Daniel Jones's abilities to run the ball, 2 touchdowns, had a throwing touchdown. What is it? I think they accomplished something they hadn't done since the Peyton Manning era. They scored on all 7 of their possessions. So I thought that was going to be a really nice addition. Here's a guy, Daniel Jones, first-round pick. It didn't work out with the Giants, but he's got a better back now with Taylor. He's got a better offensive line. I think he's got better receivers, and it's a very winnable division. And from the Miami standpoint, I was reading on X, guys, great Dolphins, O.J. McDuffie, Richmond Webb, among others. I mean, that was basically a no-show. And if you've got no vibe, if you've got no energy, it simply looked like Miami was going through the motions. I think Tua was trying. There's no doubt about that. And some other guys probably did, but it was just a bad look. I don't expect anything out of the Dolphins anyway. You hate to put out the first, coach to be fired type thing, but, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of confidence in Mike McDaniel's abilities, at least at this point in time. And they had to show the obligatory Tyreek Hill getting upset on the sidelines. Hustler Rammer, I'm sure there'll be odds, when he goes back to Kansas City, when that'll be, by week 4, by week 5. So
I was just about to bring that up, Zick. I was literally just about to bring that up. Because here's the thing. Tyreek Hill, all-world player. He can also be an all-world malcontent. It seemed like we saw that at the end of last season, through the offseason. For their year to start the way that it did yesterday could not have been a worse sign moving forward. And I would be shocked if the Dolphins don't make some sort of move or cut bait sooner as opposed to later, just for the atmosphere around the team, never mind the interest of a certain team that calls Arrow Stadium home in bringing back Tyreek, especially when you consider what happened with Worthy in game 1.
Well, and let's not forget either, he wasn't named a team captain, nor he should have been, because apparently it's a complicated relationship, I guess he has with Tua. So it's just a bad scene down there in Miami. And again, I don't immediately know right off the top of my head what the cap ramifications would be, but sometimes, Andrew, you got to be able to, take a little bit of the bullet. Think of what Denver did a couple years ago, letting Russell Wilson go. They took that proverbial big hit. Now they're a little bit better off for it because they got a great defense. They got a good young quarterback, and they took the hit. Maybe Miami has to do the same with Tyreek Hill.
Just on Denver for a minute. Listen, they got the win.
Right.
I thought that was about as tough a spot as you could put a rookie quarterback going to the number 1 play. Here, enjoy the Denver Broncos defense for 60 minutes. And they didn't do much, but I'll tell you what, the Bronco offense didn't do much either. Bo Nix turned the ball over 3 times. They had another one fumbled by Mims. I guess if everyone was just expecting automatically rookie quarterbacks from last year to take a big step in the offseason, we saw from both Drake May, but especially Bo Nix, that sometimes it takes a little bit more time, and you are going to need to rely on those defenses to get wins early in the season.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's not get Bo Nix confused with Jaden Daniels. I mean, that kid seems to be just in another stratosphere. But, Bo Nix still needs a lot of work, but you got Sean Payton coaching him up, and I think in time, there's no doubt I think he's going to be a pretty effective quarterback. I don't know if he's ever going to be, his new version of Drew Brees. Let's not get that, twisted or whatever. But the kid utilizes, they have a good ground game. I had a chance to chat with the rookie back, RJ Harvey, had a big 50-yard run yesterday. And I even teased him. I says, yeah, you got the best of the top overall pick, Cam Ward. And he had a good laugh out of that. But as for Cam, his numbers weren't all that great. He had a fumble, but overall, I thought, in the altitude against a very good defense, his first pro start, and plus, Andrew, they had a weather delay up there in Denver. So, he didn't light the world on fire, but he wasn't terrible either. But again, young quarterbacks, and we're going to see 2 tonight with McCarthy and Caleb. It's not like a microwave oven where you put the ingredients in, zap it for 3 minutes, and then everything's going to be great. It takes time. I think people in the media and all that, and even the fans need to learn, not everybody's Dan Marino when they come right out of the chute.
Hey, Zig, just on that Denver game, there was a really, we were watching all 4 of the games, so we didn't have the sound on at that time, but Cam Ward had a long pass to, now the guy's name escapes me, number 5.
Was it Lockett, maybe?
It was
Tyler Lockett.
It was number 5. I can pull it up and I'll tell you what it is right now by looking at it. But the reason I bring this up is that he was going down and he had the ball, his elbow hit in, and then the rest of his ball, the ball, his feet never came in. But I mean, an elbow equals 2 feet. Iomanner, that's right. Eric Iomanner, number 5.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you caught this, but anyways, that happened, and we were saying, like, wait a second, his elbow got down, like that should be a catch.
Right.
Callahan was asked after the game why he didn't challenge that, and he said, well, only his elbow got down, none of his feet, and 1 elbow doesn't equal 2 feet, which is just straight up wrong. I mean, there's all sorts of sometimes where you can make a decision or you can criticize a coach based on, what their read or feel is. But for something like that, I haven't heard yet, but I'm going to make a point of going and seeing what the Tennessee press conference was like today, because for a coach just simply to not know what the rule is a pretty tough look in 2025, considering how much competition there are for those jobs.
Well, if maybe he doesn't know the rule, then at least somebody on the staff should, or their video people should say, hey, look, he got into bounds. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, Andrew, I didn't see the play in question, but it does sound from how you're describing it like it should have been, a completed play. But I guess in the final analysis too, it's the heat of the moment. Everybody's got the first game jitters. Everybody says it's week 1 of the NFL regular season. I call it like it is. It's week 4 of the preseason. It's just now that the games count. I think if we really go to week 4, week 5, early October, then I'll say, and again, this is just me talking, maybe a little jaded, but watching 50 years of football, I know some bad football when I see it. I know good football when I see it. I know there's kinks to be worked out for 32 teams. I think by October, we'll probably see a better product.
Hey, just on that, Callahan, I've just looked this up. He said his interpretation of the rule was incorrect. He admitted he should have challenged the play. He thought he still needed to get his feet in bounds. So
all right,
tough
at least
look,
he owned it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing else you could really do after his presser yesterday. Hey, before we go, what an interesting Monday nighter we've got. We got a lot of Viking fans fired up to finally get their team on it and see what J.J. McCarthy can do as the starting quarterback for the Vikings. Zig, I can't think of a situation for a rookie, well, I guess technically a second-year quarterback, but a guy making his first start to come in with both more pressure on him to succeed, but also a better situation to come into with a world-class offense around him, a great defense, a coach that has turned quarterbacks into studs. And then on the other side, there's a lot of pressure that goes with Caleb Williams as well for maybe some different reasons. Give us your thoughts on Vikings-Bears tonight from Chi-Town.
Yeah, to me, it's almost like the person who just got their driver's license off the permit and their first car is a Lamborghini. It's like, if you look at it that way, because the Vikings are loaded. I mean, you look both sides of the ball, there's no reason why they can't make a deep run into the playoffs this year. So, again, they chose the kid for something. Let's not forget, he was a national champion quarterback at Michigan. I know Jim Harbaugh had the little over-the-top hyperbole saying he was the best quarterback in school history, considering many thought Jim was the best at Ann Arbor. But to that point, He does have the leadership. He's got a decent enough arm, and he seems like he's pretty well liked already in the locker room. So that's maybe half the battle right there. And then with Chicago, those narratives about Caleb just don't seem to go away. Like, is he totally, focused into what he wants to do in terms of being a leader to being a success? I guess, if anything, Ben Johnson's a guy who's worked his tail off to become a head coach. He's said quarterback whisperer. So does he get into Caleb? Unlike Eberflus in the previous administration in Chicago, he better, or else, Chicago, gosh forbid, might be looking at yet another quarterback. I mean, think about this here, Andrew. Within the last, 7-8 years, you used the second overall on Trubisky. You used a fringe top 10 pick on Justin Fields. And then you take Caleb number 1 overall. And if you miss on those decisions, man, that sets organizations back not just a year, but maybe 3 to 5 years, and you got to keep resetting. But anyway, all of that said, this should be a good game. I love what Chris Berman would say. This would be the Norris Division battle, which I always love that. I always love the hockey reference. So this would be a really good Norris Division battle between the Vikings and the Bears.
Zig, thanks so much for doing this. I always love talking football with you. Let people know when they can hear you conduct things on Sirius NFL.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Of course, got the sports updates on the platform of channels, whether it's Mad Dog or NFL Radio. NHL Radio should be going back there, Andrew, in October when the season starts, to be a contributor on that channel. So I do updates on the platform of channels 1 through 7 Eastern time, Wednesday through Friday. And then Saturday in season, we have the End Zone 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Channel 88 in the SiriusXM app. And then after every Sunday night game, the son of former Giants great Phil Simms, Matt Simms, joins us for SiriusXM NFL Rewind as we recap every game. Again, Channel 88, SiriusXM app, and of course, you can always get me on X at Zig Sports Voice.
Zig, I know you were far too experienced and bright to count out the Chiefs, like many that are already doing it so far.
Let's
Long
take
season.
it easy, right?
Hey, listen, let's do this again soon. I always love talking football with you. Thanks for the time, pal.
Hustler Rama anytime, my man.
Right on. There's Zig Fracassi. Give him a follow on X and check out Zig on XM88. Especially after the action on Sunday night. That is where the action is all happening. All right, we got a couple weeks until the Ryder Cup. I cannot wait for that. We'll have to get Feinberg on before Ryder Cup and a few of our other favorites. Of course, the golf season is winding down, but a couple more beautiful weeks of weather, it looks like, ahead, which means not done yet. But if you're already thinking about golfing for 2026, and thinking about a long-term golfing home for you and your family, consider Breezy Bend Country Club, home of the 2025 Manitoba Open, with an incredible course that's been really changed significantly over the last few years. Beautiful clubhouse improvements, incredible social programs, junior programs, ladies programs, and so much more. Find out more on next year. Give our pal Corey Johnson a call at the clubhouse, 895-7205, or check them out online at breezybend.ca. And no Monday racing tonight at Assiniboia Downs. Hey, we'll have Monday a week from today, the final Monday of the year. But the track continues rolling Tuesdays and Wednesdays all the way into October. So we got another 4 weeks of live racing. Remis and I will go head-to-head and continue our battle for season-long supremacy tomorrow with our picks against the spread. But tomorrow and Wednesday, 7:30 post time. Check out AssiniboiaDowns.com for more details and to make a reservation in the clubhouse dining room for any of the remaining nights of live racing. All right, let's get the boys back in here for a minute. Before we get to the Coolbet lines, I want to see where people are at for this game tonight. Just pulling it up on Coolbet, the Vikings, a 1-point favorite in the game tonight. Minus 118 on the money line. The Bears, even money to win at home. Minus 108 at plus 100 at plus 1. Connor, what are you expecting to see tonight? We got J.J. McCarthy in his first NFL start under the bright lights. going up against Caleb Williams, the number one overall quarterback from a year ago, who has been, let's just say the center of attention throughout training camp, not often always for the right reasons. Going to have to do a lot under center, which he's never done before. And of course, it's Ben Johnson's debut. The brainchild of Detroit now takes over his own operation in the division, going up against Minnesota. Very intriguing matchup for many reasons. Oh, wait, we got you muted, or I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go.
Good,
Hello.
Good now.
Good now. Okay, sweet. I'm expecting to see two great play callers with two quarterbacks that there are a lot of question marks about, and I think it's going to be a really good game. I mean, the NFC North is such a quality division, and these are two teams that, if everything goes right, they're absolutely in play for the division. I know the Green Bay Packers are probably Super Bowl contenders after the Micah Parsons trade, but if JJ McCarthy hits, like, the Vikings have a very good roster. And if Caleb Williams, if Ben Johnson, that new head coach for the Bears, can get the best out of Caleb Williams, then the Bears have a good roster and they can compete, maybe not for the division, but absolutely for a playoff spot. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings head coach, go up against Ben Johnson, the new Bears head coach, in two incredible offensive play callers. And Huss, if the Bears come out and Caleb Williams looks amazing and they put up 30 points and their offense is humming, and then I go back to what I just said about the Lions and how they lost Ben Johnson to the Bears, and how their offense looked very vanilla and very stale against the Packers. I think there will be a lot of questions about the Lions potentially being Ben Johnson merchants. So I'm looking forward to see how these two quarterbacks play tonight, how much their coaches ease them into the game by giving them layup throws and things of that nature. And anytime we get to watch Justin Jefferson in prime time is so much fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Remo, your buddy AP and the rest of the Lions fans were not enjoying the festivities yesterday. That's for sure.
No, definitely surprising. You know, the Lions offense so big. They signed Jamison Williams to the big contract as well over the weekend. You thought he was going to make an impact with a long touchdown. Not the case for Detroit. And it's funny, they honored the 15-year anniversary of the Packers Super Bowl team before the game. And yeah, Jordan Love looking pretty good. Nice, he got injured in the first week last year. Some big predictions for him if he can stay healthy. And for the Vikings in this game, I'm really curious, how is J.J. McCarthy going to look in his first start? You look at this list of quarterbacks that the Vikings have had. I mean, they seemingly anyone in there is pretty good, and they move on from Sam Darnold. Don't want to give him the big money. You bring in the rookie and are able to surround him with a lot of talent there. So I'm curious how this one looks. You got the Bears with the new coaching staff, Caleb Williams, with another with season of full experience under his belt. How is he going to look? And J.J. McCarthy. So young quarterbacks going at it, smart coaches. We'll see how this one goes. I think the Vikings will pull it out, but hey, they're only a 1-point favorite on the road, so I don't know how comfortable I am. And the total kind of low, 43.5 totals. Not expecting a ton of points in this one.
I know Pat and Jake will be riding with the primetime over 3.5 field goals bet. Yeah. I'm right there. I mean, usually you're getting plus money. It's minus 110 for today's game. But I think it's highly likely that one comes through. Just looking at some of the other, like the passing totals for these guys, the J.J. McCarthy number is basically 224. Caleb Williams, 218. So, I mean, we're not looking for massive numbers, which takes me to the rushing. And I'm thinking about going with Aaron Jones over, I guess the over number is now 47.5. I am worried about Jordan Mason and how much he plays in. I'm just sort of thinking, Remis, I don't know what you think about this. Aaron Jones being the de facto number one and the returning player, I think that almost the seniority is going to get him the majority of touches early on. But I kind of really do expect we're going to see a lot more Jordan Mason as we go forward. Just wondering if tonight's the night just to focus on the veteran and go over Aaron. Because, to be honest, the passing game without seeing JJ go, I mean, it'll probably be a lot of shorter stuff. But I do think they really try and establish the run to help out their young quarterback. So I think that's actually good news for both running backs, but especially Jones when we're talking about the yardage.
Yeah, depth charts and usage, something that all fantasy players are watching here in week one. And, you don't really have any prior weeks to go through. And Aaron Jones, he's been the guy, especially when he's been able to stay healthy. He's been very good. He's veteran at this stage of his career. And Jordan Mason filled in very well in San Francisco the last couple of seasons. So you do have two capable backs there. Jones, he can catch the ball in the backfield too. So something to watch. And maybe you do lean betting on the rushing yards for Aaron Jones over 47 and a half, the number there, and they're expecting him to be the lead guy. But Jordan Mason not far behind. You look at the total, 39 and a half for him. So they do see it as a bit of a split there by the odds makers.
Yeah, I think I'm going to run with the Jones total for at least this first game, and we'll see how things go. I don't mind Mason for a touchdown, though. I certainly think he'll be getting the red zone stuff. So, again, anyway, something else to think about. We haven't touched on the Blue Jays at all. And tough 4-3 loss yesterday. I know everyone was sort of so focused in on the hockey. But, a pretty high leverage series with the Yankees has now come and gone. And Connor, the old objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. Yankees now just 2 games back. Red Sox still 3.5 in a very tight AL East.
Yeah, that was not great to see the Jays. They were in that game too. It was 3-3. They had a runner on second and third with nobody out. And to lose that one stings, especially, that was the rubber match of the 3-game series. Who do they take on now? Is it Houston? Yeah. I believe they're taking on this week. So, yeah, that's another big series. They're coming home for that one. That's a 3-game set. And then they take on the Orioles at home before hitting the road again against the Rays, Royals, back home against the Red Sox, and then the Rays again. So a lot of divisional matchups. They will play the Red Sox at the end of September there, the 23rd, 24th, 25th at home. That could very well be for the division. And with the Yankees kind of winning that series, or not kind of, definitely winning that series over the weekend, the Jays are going to have to be very good down the stretch here to maintain their 2-game lead in the AL East and get that first round bye, and then probably play against the Red Sox and the Yankees. If it ended today, that's how it would be.
Missing Monk is in the chat. He's fired up for the Vikes tonight. And I see Schnitzy. What's up, Schnitz? Again, folks, if you haven't yet consumed the WST Bomber Report, Schnitzy and Connor have it up ready for you right when you're finished watching today's edition of WST. Hey, listen, I'm going to we'll do a quick fantasy update, see how things went in the Winnipeg Media League in just a moment. But speaking of fantasy, I meant to do this on Friday. We have the first 3 of 5 winners for the fantasy points premium package. Thomas will be on later on this week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm thinking. We'll announce the final 2 winners. So if you haven't already, get over to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest and enter if you're a fantasy football player. But the first 3 winners are Cowboy, Greg H, and you, Chaz, Big Uke. We'll be in touch with them and fill them in on the information on how to make that happen. But we've got 2 more premium subscriptions. So if you do want to get in on that, enter now at winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. So Cowboy, Greg H, you Chaz, check your emails, and we'll get you in touch on that. Remis, how was your opening weekend in the Media League?
Yeah, it actually went pretty well, Huss. I got matched up against Josh Frey Sam, and it was a close one. I ended up pulling out the win. Let me pull it.
It's over?
We're all done. I got 100% on the win percentage. All of our players are done. Yeah, he had Dak Prescott and George Pickens really disappointing on the Thursday nighter and kind of sunk him. Jordan Love had a nice game. Christian McCaffrey, I was very nervous if he was going to play or not after that injury report came out, but he did play, and he was my leading point scorer. So I had him and CeeDee Lamb. I won too. Did pretty well. I made a shrewd move, Huss, picking the Rams defense off the waiver wire right before, and they scored 11 points for me, which was a nice amount. So I beat him 107 to 98. So it was a close one, not a huge scoring game, maybe a bit lucky with the matchup, but I did pretty well. I'll take the win. 1-0 in the media league. I benched Daniel Jones, Huss. I got a decision if I'm going to play him in my quarterback spot.
Well, listen,
next week.
Benching Daniel Jones in week 1, a bad move. Not as bad as Slattery picking Anthony Richardson before Daniel Jones in the draft and allowing him to be available to you. Let's see, Phineas and Herb, Connor. I think this is going to be a good week for WST at the start of it. Looks like you've got a 97% win probability going up against Darren Bombing and La Porta House tonight.
Yeah, so as long as Rome Odunze doesn't outscore Aaron Jones by, 33 points, 23 points, I'll win. So I'm at a 97% win percentage. And if you remember, I was on this program last week. Yahoo predicted that I would go 2-12. So if I close this out, that would put me halfway to my total yearly win total that Yahoo projected for me. Yahoo also said my worst draft pick was Justin Herbert, who was my leading scorer this week, 28 points in my super flex. And Emeka Ibuka, rookie wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I drafted this guy, Huss, in every single league. And I drafted him way too high in every single league. So for him to go out and score 2 touchdowns and 21 points was very validating for me. I was super high on this guy. The Bucs throw the ball a ton. He was the Ohio State's leading receiver ever. Think of all the great receivers that have played at Ohio State. He's their leading receiving yards leader all time. And he's an incredible rookie. So I was happy that he showed up. Devon Achane, garbage time touchdown for the Dolphins. Very worried about that. And then Joe Burrow had like 8 points, and I think he'll be better going forward. I hope so, or else my team's kind of screwed. But yeah, not a bad week. And Deebo Samuel, Javonte Williams on my bench, so I've got room to improve as well.
I am going into tonight I'm down, but only by 2 points. And I believe that, and Billick is done. So I need 2 points from J.J. McCarthy. Let's just hope that he doesn't have an Aaron Rodgers start to the season.
So you want to hear a shrewd move? In my buddies league, which is like our home league, our big league, I need a catch tonight from Rome Odunze to win. I'm down by like 0.2. Like if he gets a catch, I win. So what I did is I went to Coolbet and I looked at Rome Odunze receptions. Under 1.5 is plus 550. So I put like a couple bucks. I put a couple bucks on Rome Odunze to get no catches tonight, just in case. But as long as he gets a catch, I'll win my matchup.
The old happiness hedge.
Emotional hedge.
We've seen that before.
Emotional hedge. Yeah.
But yeah, Jaden Daniels, absolute stud. 20, pretty pedestrian for his numbers. I did have to go against Mahomes. And Mahomes, I know we haven't really talked a lot about that game other than just sort of mentioning how great Herbert was. Mahomes is incredible too. I mean, the minute that they lost Worthy early on, it put way more on his shoulders. I mean, some of the passes that he completed were just ridiculous, but also ran for 57 yards and a touchdown. Had a pretty nice one. Billick had a tough one. A.J. Brown, 130. Xavier Worthy, 0. Other than that, he had some good players. Zay Flowers, Bijan Robinson, James Cook. But Derrick Henry with that monster game. Jacoby Myers, Chase Brown, very serviceable. Cortland Sutton as well. And the Denver defense. So this could be a 3-0 week for WST to start off the Media League, which would be fun. Again, back to Coolbet for a minute. It's basically a pick 'em. Call it 1 point. Vikings minus 118. Chicago, even money on the win. And I don't know. What do you expect for Remis? What do you expect for Justin Jefferson tonight? Because, I mean, KOC, you have to think that he's going to be cooking up a lot of, they're going to want to get Justin Jefferson into the groove with J.J. McCarthy very early. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a ton of targets, many of the shorter variety.
Yeah, with Addison out, you think a lot more of the targets are going to go to him. I'm not sure if we're going to have any explosion games. You look across the NFL, how many 100-yard receivers do we have this week? How scoring seems to be down for week 1. We just talked with Zig. He says, I call this preseason another week of preseason, except it counts in the standings. I think you are seeing some of that adjusting. I do think, Justin Jefferson's certainly capable of a huge game, but maybe we should be tempering our expectations here in week 1 as you're waiting for players to get back into the groove of playing for real, because they don't play in the preseason. We want to get all fired up, hitting all overs everywhere and picking guys for massive spike weeks. But maybe I need to, just dial it back a little, as we didn't see that this week.
The irony of the whole thing is the most bet total of the entire week was the under in the Steelers-Jets game. That one went over by double, I think. So, anyways, a wild first week. We got one more game tonight. It's the Vikings and the Chicago Bears, Monday Night Football. Finally, we get to hear Skull, and the Viking fans can put the purple on and cheer their new quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, on. Fun show. And, we haven't talked about it too much, but Connor, we're starting to get some action at the rink. And we're going to pop by over the next couple days, and we're expecting to hear from Jonathan Taves on Thursday. So getting closer and closer to training camp, but over the course of the next little bit, we do have Jets on the ice at the Iceplex, so we'll be following that throughout the week here on WST.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people missed it, I know WST Bombers report came out this morning. We went live. WST Sunday Live returned Sunday with me and Liz, and that was an absolute blast. A lot of people stopped by and chat. We played a little over-under with some preseason lines. How many games is Jonathan Taves going to play in the preseason was a conversation that we had. And we talked about the season as well and previewed training camp. So, yeah, expecting to hear from Jonathan Taves this week. We're also, the prospects. I know you guys broke down the roster. They're practicing this week, and they're going to be playing this weekend. So, yeah, hockey's right around the corner. I couldn't be more excited. NFL's back with a classic week 1 slate. Hockey's right around the corner. This is the best time of the year, Huss.
Great Monday nighter tonight, Remo. You rolling with the Vikings?
I am rolling with the Vikings, putting in, doing some prop picks as well. I'll take all the overs. I don't care. It's more fun. It's not fun betting unders. So, I'm riding with the Vikings. Tonight should be good. Blue Jays not playing.
Tomorrow they get the one in Houston.
Yeah, CFL doesn't start till Friday. Hockey season, we got the prospect tournament next weekend. I don't know if there's lines on that, but I know it'll be streaming at winnipegjets.com. I'll be watching Raw starting, though, an hour earlier now.
Okay, I wasn't necessarily going to mention this, but now that it is in the chat, I'm going to. Greg from Royal, my pal, is sitting on an 11-game parlay at Coolbet. He's 10 for 10.
Mm-hmm.
The final pick in this parlay is his team, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
Now, he had sent me a message after the game, after the 9 were in. He says, what do you think I should do? I've got a buyout option for, I don't know, it was like $300 or something like that. The ticket, it's a $10 ticket, pays over $1,300. And he had the Bills and the Vikings. So the miracle happens last night. He does not hedge. He rides with the Bills, and they come back and win. So I think the cash out is probably like $670 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can cash that out. But he says, I'll feel like a bad fan not having faith in my own team. So you have the one option to do what he did yesterday, have faith, ride it, and go for the big one. The potential is that your own team is going to be the one that screws you, which would be extra devastating way to start the season. Or the other option, if you kind of want to half and half it, would be listen, you could just go place a big bet on the Bears. But I think that would be the hedge. That would feel too ugly. So I think what would happen is he would take the cash out and say it's 665 and say maybe you keep 400 and then put 265 immediately on the Vikings to win. And you probably end up in and around 888, something like that. But big decision for Rob Kane. Can't cash it in if it's your team. Eagle Eyes. Gambo, let it ride. Brennan, go Vikes. Krugs, hang on for the 11th. Running Man, go for it. Vikes will win. Let it ride. There's not a lot of support for the hedge in here, Hack. And as I say, we like the Vikings. You love the Vikings in this game. What could be a better way to slam an 11-gamer in week 1 of the NFL season by your own team finishing it off on Monday night?
I don't know, Huss. If I was faced with this decision, I don't know what I would do. I lean towards the cash out. I like your option, though, of cashing out and then putting a chunk of it on the Vikings. Do you still get a winnings portion? And then if the Vikings win, you still win more. So it's still like you're rooting for the Vikings tonight. Obviously, he's rooting for the Vikings. He's a Vikings fan. The devastation. If my own team blew it on Monday night, I don't know. I like the later option. I don't know about you, Remo.
Great chat here. Great problem to have. Kevin Soldier, tell him to stay. I'll bet on the Bears. I always lose whenever I pick a team. LOL. T. Will, it's not my money. Let it ride.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying here. I would probably take the cash out. I did ask. Whenever I'm in these discussions, as I do consult with ChatGPT, and they said do a small emotional hedge on the opponent. You get a payoff if Minnesota wins, but you don't get nothing if they lose.
And that's the emotional hedge, is essentially the cash out and then taking that chunk and putting on the Vikings. Because I know he will not be able to go in and put $300 on the Chicago Bears, for instance, which I think by the money, I think the cash out is always juiced a little bit. But again, at least you're sitting on a Vikings ticket. You're still cheering for the Vikings that night, as opposed to putting a ticket on the Bears. I will probably see Greg tonight for the game. I'm sure he'll be a nervous wreck, beyond what all Viking fans are in a very, very big night. But we wish him luck. We're all going to ride the Vikings with you, and it'll be a big, happy chat room tomorrow. And if not, you can blame everyone that bullied you into not taking the cash out in the chat today to make it happen. Great stuff. Well, hey, listen, let's do one more quick why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. I guess I just asked you if he should cash the ticket out or not. But do you like the Vikes tonight? For all you Vike fans and everyone else, throw us into the chat. Let us know what you are for the why not question of the day for not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Fun show. Listen, these Mondays breaking down NFL, great. Our Banjo Bowl conversation, a little bit tougher today. I was really hoping this would be a true victory Monday. But the Bombers move on. We'll have lots on the Bombers tomorrow as they practice. We'll get an update and, it's an injury update, I would assume, on Zach Caleros and more on the roster heading into Hamilton. And Mike McIntyre's back in town. Mike will join us. We'll have more on the blue and gold, and we'll, of course, break down tonight's Monday Nighter for you Viking and Bears fans that are waiting to finally get your teams on the field for the final of the 16 games of Week 1 in the NFL. Thanks again to Zig Fracassi and Ed Tait, Connor Hrabchak, Michael Remis, all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Folks, enjoy the game tonight. Tomorrow we'll have CFL 110 and Winnipeg Sports Talk right here on the WST channel. Have a great night, and we will see you then.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.